So this is a version of PC games I want on consoles that was made before the final version. This one was exported on December 29th, 2020, and it is very different from the final. Some differences are that there's different camera shots, different scripts. My voiceover is a little nasally because I think I was under the weather that day. There's early channel branding that was used in a few earlier videos, but I used a different channel branding, which I have been using since the final PC games I want on consoles. The video ends early, and there's a lot of just black spaces of where I'm just talking and there's no visuals going on because those are pockets where I was going to record gameplay and I didn't put them in yet, which those pockets have been filled with gameplay in the final video, but here they are just black screens. I hope this is pretty interesting to you. I doubt it will be, but it is interesting to me because I just found this on my hard drive and I thought it was pretty cool.
Hey everyone, it's me, Squid, and I think I contracted carpal tunnel from playing too much Peggle. I mean, it's understandable. It's both on my PC and Xbox, so I can play this game wherever I go. There are some games that sadly don't get the console treatment. They're left on PC to rot. Of course I have this brute, so anything's possible nowadays, but back when I didn't have that, I used to be a console player. I used to miss out on all of these games. So today, I'm going to tap into that remaining past self I still have inside of me and talk about some PC games that need to be on consoles.
There are games that stay exclusive to PC. Consoles aren't the easiest to develop for, so sometimes developers leave them in the dust. However, this leaves a lot of console players left out on some great games. I used to be one of those people, and at the ripe young age of 11 to 13, my friends were talking about Team Fortress 2 a lot, and my poor ass only had a Switch, a Wii U, and an Xbox One. I mean, I also had the family iMac, but for one, gaming on a Mac is something that never fails to make me f***ing lose it, and two, I don't think my parents wanted me playing violent video games back then. On the other hand, for people that have PCs, they aren't the best for playing portably. The Nintendo Switch is really great to play on because that allows for great games to be played portably, albeit with poor frame rate and not great battery life. I was looking through my Steam library the other day and picked out a few games I had in there that I would love to see on consoles. Here are the ones I chose and why I chose them. Also, while I would love for these games to be on all platforms, I'll just be talking in terms of these games coming to the Nintendo Switch. I would kill for a new Commander Keen game with the art style the series currently has. That would be absolutely amazing, but it's clear that neither Bethesda nor id Software want anything to do with the franchise. The last we heard from Commander Keen was on E3 2019 when Bethesda just lost it and announced Commander Keen would be making a return, in the form of a bad mobile game that we haven't heard from since. Considering it's 2021 now and all of the trailers for the game have been privated, I don't think Commander Keen has a future. Commander Keen is on Steam, but just like every classic id Software game, except for Doom 1 and 2, the Steam versions run on DOSBox. The games are good, and surprisingly have controller support on DOS, but the controls aren't amazing, and I would rather have controls that make a little bit more sense. Actually, the retconned episode of Commander Keen, Keen Dreams, is on the Switch eShop, so it could definitely be done, no doubt. Nowadays, the series is used for an excuse to sell a t-shirt. While I would love a new Keen game since it is a platforming series and it would be perfect for the Nintendo Switch, the bare minimum would just be cleaning up the DOS games a little bit and putting those on consoles in a collection or whatever. Hell, I love remakes of these games with the new art style, but for now, pixel art it is. On October 16th, 2020, Running with Scissors put out a port of Postal Redux for the Switch, and from what I've seen, it's a pretty good port. Redux is already a stellar remake of the 1997 original that improves a lot of the game, and hey, Running with Scissors put out an update to Postal 1997 that adds controller support, native widescreen support, and made the original free so you can save your money on Postal Redux. If they got Postal Redux accepted for the Switch, then really any Postal game can be on the Switch. However, Postal is more known for the FPS gameplay seen in Postal 2. Sadly, if I'm correct, RWS said that Postal 2 is rather unoptimized and would take drastic changes to be ported on consoles. However, I'd still be eager for Postal 4 No Regrets to be ported to any consoles, as well as Postal Brain Damaged, a Quake-style Postal game that takes after the darker themes and tones of classic Postal and is releasing later this year. Speaking of Quake, Quake is an important game in FPS history that only had 2 console ports, one for the Nintendo 64 that actually had 4-player multiplayer, and another on the Sega Saturn, which, while good, runs on a different engine, and, it's on the Sega Saturn. Quake really needs to be ported on modern systems. Quake is so good and would work really well on consoles. I love the low poly models and stuff from Quake, so why not port it over? I think that'd be really awesome. They could port Quake 2 and Quake 3, but those games aren't as impactful as Quake 1. Quake 2 is, well, Quake 2, and while there is an HD remaster of the game in the form of Quake 2 RTX, still, it's Quake 2, the game that brought down id for almost 2 decades. Quake 3, I just don't see working because the game is multiplayer only, and I honestly can't imagine controlling it any way other than good old keyboard and mouse. I just really want to see Quake on consoles or really have it get any attention outside of QuakeCon or Quake Champions. You see a pattern yet? It seems Bethesda and id Software only want to focus on Doom for now. They've completely abandoned their other franchises. The last Wolfenstein game they made was Return to Castle Wolfenstein back in 2001. Also, the last 2 Wolfenstein games weren't great, one being online multiplayer exclusive, and the other having a rather meh story. Yeah, Wolfenstein 3D had a release on Xbox Live Arcade, but that's only playable on Xbox 360. Wolfenstein 3D would be great for consoles too. It is the granddaddy of all FPS games, so why not port it over? Is it the best game for a modern console release? Maybe only on the Switch. It'll really only be a 5-minute romp for Xbox and PlayStation at most. I would love to see a modern re-release of this game on PC and Switch though. This is the best Wolfenstein game, honestly. The single-player campaign is absolutely awesome, and the multiplayer is fantastic. I would love to see this game on every console, and unlike Wolfenstein 3D, this game just has so much more to it. It's already on the PS2 and original Xbox, so really, this would just take a little bit of cleaning up to do. Hear me out. I know that the orange box is on Xbox 360 and is backwards compatible with Xbox One, but for that you'll either need the game disc or you'll need to buy it on Xbox.com. I mainly included this for TF2, but also all of Half-Life 2 and Portal haven't been on console since 2007. Also, TF2 hasn't been updated on any console ever, so if you really want to play TF2 on consoles, be prepared for only stock weapons and only 6 playable maps. I feel like Valve could port the current version of TF2 for consoles, make some changes to make it feel more at home, and update the game alongside the PC version. Half-Life 2 and Portal as well, those could be optimized for newer consoles as those are some stellar titles. Although in TF2 rocket jumping would be harder than usual, I'm personally acquainted with playing it on controller. Same thing as the orange box, this is another Valve title and man, it needs a console re-release. Left 4 Dead 2 is the best co-op experience ever, and it would be awesome if it had local multiplayer. At this point, Left 4 Dead 2 is more Left 4 Dead 1 content than, well, Left 4 Dead 1. So what's the point of bringing the first game over, rather than the sequel? This is a really fun poker game. You play against the Heavy from TF2. Need I say more? This is a more unlikely one, as you can't buy the game off of Steam anymore. I had to buy an activation key for the game from a third-party website a while ago. This is because the developer, Telltale Games, just doesn't exist anymore, so their games aren't available on any platform. Another unlikely one. I just think it would be absolutely hilarious if fucking Big Rigs of all games was ported to modern consoles, just without all the game crashing bugs. The first Half-Life was a stellar title for not only changing FPS games, but also incorporating story within the gameplay, rather than having cutscenes play everything out. The immersion is insane in this game, and I would love to see Half-Life 1 get a port to any modern console. It already has 2 console ports, with an asterisk. The PS2 version comes with an exclusive expansion, Decay, a 2-player expansion to the Black Mesa story, and the Dreamcast port, while cancelled, was entirely finished and was actually supposed to come with Blue Shift, the expansion where you play a security guard Barney Calhoun. I would love to see all Half-Life 1 games come to consoles. The base game, Blue Shift, Opposing Force, and even though it was never released on PC officially, I would love to see Decay in a port as well. Blood is one of the lesser-known build engine titles. Obviously, the most popular build game is Duke Nukem, and that had a rather lame console port. But Blood had a remaster, and it was good. Atari and Night Dive Studios re-released Blood in December 2018 as Blood Fresh Supply, and it's a decent port. I really like Night Dive ports of games, and Blood is probably the most underrated FPS game of all time. Now, I know a lot of these are very ambitious, so don't take me as the prophet of console ports. These are just ones that I really wanted to see.
Now all this is